Hi there, my name is Diana Clark, and this is my self-evaluation for group facilitation. I was partnered up with Tati for this group facilitation, and we just did a group based on a family dynamic where one of the children has recently come out as queer. And in the role play, the family was very supportive. They were just looking for more support and how to handle this, and just guidance on how to lead discussions and learn about this topic. So while facilitating, I feel like I did a pretty decent job addressing DEI standpoints. I tried to utilize this very early on in the conversation when using a pronoun statement. I made sure that they knew that they understood the importance of using the pronouns, the importance of making sure that they're comfortable sharing their pronouns, especially because we were discussing a sensitive topic, such as recently coming out as being a part of the queer community, and they might not be well educated on what using different kind of pronouns mean and how it could be harmful to a person to be referred to as the wrong type of pronouns. So I tried to display good faith by sharing my personal pronouns, giving a little statement about how pronouns can be helpful, and introducing members to talk in the group. I feel like this helped to include all members and all point of views, so they group members felt more comfortable to share their experiences, share their emotions, share their thoughts throughout this process. I feel like when we are discussing reformative justice and having one kind of like difficult person in a situation, we tend to focus on that person. I really wanted to focus not only on the individual, but also how it is affecting the entire family unit. Just because when a big change happens in someone's life, it doesn't just affect them, it affects those around them. And I felt that was really important to emphasize and provide like strength and support on. Something that I followed through on was the cultural competence that is discussed in Zastro. Diverse cultures include not only race and ethnicity, but also queer and LGBTQ communities. So, being in a family with mixed gender and sexual identity, it is really important that we address the cultural competency within it and make sure that we are able to provide more appropriate services. For example, if a family is experiencing this sudden change, or if a family has had multiple people come out as an LGBTQ community member, they might have different levels of needing assistance in dealing with this new change. Some growth areas, I found that working in an online environment made keeping the discussion like productive felt pretty difficult, as I saw that there was like many distractions within the separate group members. I know that some social work practices do online group meetings, so I feel like it would be really helpful for me to learn how to grow and learn how to provide through those kind of challenges. Something that I was thinking about would be asking each member before the group even started, or even like at the beginning of the group, if I notice that's a problem, to just find a quiet space that is free from any and all distractions, where they could just sit for the time length of the session and completely focus on improving themselves and learning new things about the group members. Um, so I feel like just having a quiet, calm space would be the best part, especially because in typical group settings, we are in a normal room just to like have that discussion. So finding a space like that in their own individual lives is incredibly important to making sure that the group facilitation process is effective. For skill implementation, I feel like I did a very good job at active listening. I made a lot of small comments to encourage discussion, but not dominate the conversation. I feel like I did try to focus mainly on the client perspective and making sure that the family was communicating effectively, and also being like supportive to make sure that their discussions were also heading in toward of the positive light, making sure that they were discussing things in a way that made everybody feel accepted and not just promoting one social view. I feel like I followed the social goals that Ortega stated, which is the most basic form of social work goals, just making sure that the group is learning how to socially communicate with each other and just be around each other again, even throughout this change. And then I also feel like I followed the transformational aspect of the Schimmel text, which is empowering other group members. I feel like in a family group, especially, the parents are typically the more dominant ones and lead a lot of the conversation. So I try to empower the children to share their point of views, not only the child who was coming out, but also their sibling who might feel kind of as a glass child throughout this. So I wanted to make sure that they were also feeling empowered to be leaders in this discussion and not just participators. In developing the group and activities, I had no idea how much work actually goes into a proposal, but actually going through it and seeing every individual step, I think that me and Tati found that there was 12 individual steps, each with their own little steps in between. We found that it is very important to include every bit of information with as intense detail as possible, because we want to be able to provide the help to those who need it most. And if providing that amount of detail can help us get that grant to provide this service, then we will do it just to provide that support that not many communities can get. Talking about Tati, I feel like having a co-facilitator made this assignment so much easier, and I really appreciated her. It made these difficult conversations that I personally don't have much experience in talking about much easier to have someone I could rely on to support me and make up for the areas that I may lack in or may need like a second to like catch back up into the group, and just to make sure that I am not taking on like the emotional grunt load of the group, which as a social worker is perfectly okay to have empathy and be involved in the group, but sometimes you could get way too sucked in and it has an impact on mental health. I noticed that my peer feedback said that I should focus more on the individual group member, the one who was coming out. Um, I don't really understand this one just because we did state that we were doing a group therapy focusing on the family, not just the individual, but I feel like I could have also focused more on the problem at hand and not just how everybody was feeling about it. Um, I also really appreciated that they complimented my empathy. I really appreciate that that was perceived through the screen, just because I feel like that is a very major like block that a lot of people find hard to get through just because the screen feels so artificial. And then for future application, I really liked how I made it important that all group members knew that sharing their gender identity was optional, like I referenced in the very beginning. They feel more comfortable addressing individuals while also relating into the group, which I feel is something that I will definitely carry through the rest of my social work practice. Thank you so much and have a great day.